Why did God allow Enoch to become an angel? Could we also be chosen to do so? What is needed to be worthy of such privilege and honor? Get ready, because today I'm going to tell you. The following research confronts ingrained ideas that have been passed down for generations. We're talking about the possibility that some human beings, through an extreme process of purification and renunciation, cross the threshold that separates the earthly from the divine. And the question that arises is compelling. Is there a possibility that a mere mortal, like you and me, can abandon their human nature to become an angel? Throughout my journey through ancient texts, meetings with scholars and specialists of rituals described by mystics from the East and West, I have perceived that the subject is not a simple tale. On one hand, there are those who claim that man will never be able to equal these celestial messengers. On the other hand, there are those who point to the writings that tell the story of individuals whose destiny ended up on a higher plane, assuming an angelic role. I am the documentalist, and this is becoming an angel. The path to the celestial. What does it take to be worthy of becoming an angel? Next, I will tell you what the 4 main requirements are. Take note if you want. Number 1, rigorous purification. It involves stripping the soul of all traces of envy, ambition, or excessive passion. Those who embark on this path must leave behind their previous identity, eliminating impulses and egocentrism. 2, absolute surrender. We are talking about a level of surrender that borders on the loss of the personal. Legendary lives. They say that incessant prayer is not enough, as it would also require a commitment that encompasses body and mind, erasing vanities and individual goals. 3. Spiritual transfiguration. This step marks the border. The person, by detaching from the physical world, reaches a state where their inner spark ignites with a different force. At that moment, they would connect with immaterial forces that certain sages associate with what many call the light of God. And 4. Rise and service. If that journey were to be completed, the ancient human would become a channel of divine energy. In that state, he no longer decides of his own free will. He operates under higher instructions. He is no longer considered a simple believer, as he has evolved into an instrument of a will that surpasses any earthly scheme. This path, described in mystical texts, sounds more like a test or a kind of spiritual sieve than a reward. Anyone who tries to cross it, according to several monks, runs the risk of falling into madness or even something worse. In other words, not everyone survives the process. But who have managed to become angels and ascend up in the sky? Are there specific cases? Of course. Number 1. Enoch and Metatron. The Jewish tradition tells that Enoch did not die, but was elevated to celestial dimensions. It is said that he received a new name, Metatron. The chronicles paint him as a gigantic entity, with the authority to write decrees before the Creator. We already have some videos of Metatron and Enoch on the channel. If you like, you can search for them as the Documentalist Enoch or the Documentalist Metatron. 2. Elias and Sandalphon. In the Hebrew texts, Elijah ascends in a whirlwind of fire. Some interpret that he was transformed into a powerful guardian called Sandalphon. This event not only shakes the foundations of the Hebrew faith, but it generates the idea that there were people who joined the divine ranks. 3 stories of Christian mystics. Figures like Saint Francis of Assisi have been described with such a pure aura that for many they touch the angelic category. It is narrated that his nature was filled with so much compassion and dedication that, reaching a point, he lived on a plane that few can understand. Consequences of being an angel. Transforming like this doesn't mean just sitting and thinking. Various doctrines explain that angels do not rest. They watch, fight invisible battles, and protect souls. A human who crosses that border takes on a role that no longer belongs to himself. Just as a soldier fulfills an unmovable mission, the new angel becomes a perpetual servant of the superior force. However, there is a terrifying aspect that many ignore. The fall can always lurk. If an ascended human for some remote reason develops pride or contradiction against the supreme light, would he risk losing that state and even his total destruction? Lucifer himself, the most beautiful of all, according to Christian mythologies, was a lofty angel. So there are also stories where greatness leads to catastrophe. The currents that support the theory. Several esoteric lines endorse the notion that certain chosen ones can climb so high that they end up assigned to a celestial rank. I ask you, what kind of angel would you like to be? A messenger angel? An angel of death? An angel of praise? What do you imagine? Leave it in the comments. In certain Eastern treaties, they talk about bodily transcendence, where the flesh becomes weightless and the spirit is immersed in a glow that not even death can dim. These visions, although different, revolve around one point: the idea of a spiritual trance that eliminates the barrier between the eternal and the ephemeral. Fantasy or real fact? There are religious groups that completely discard this thesis, arguing that angels were born and inhabit another reality unconnected with our species. Others, more mystical, claim that a small group of souls has embarked on the adventure of ascension. The evidence for many are cryptic passages, miraculous anecdotes, and certain manifestations considered impossible to explain with common logic. But where does free will come into play? If one becomes an angel, they no longer decide according to their own criteria, or at least that's what is believed. It serves as part of something bigger. According to some, it would be the greatest glory, but for others, the definitive renunciation of the self. And you, would you be willing to lose your will and become an instrument of God? The step that no one dares to take. Have you ever wondered if you would be willing to sacrifice your human essence to become a guardian of the cosmos? The path demands a self-sacrifice that leaves a mark on the soul. The ancient fencers of esoteric knowledge warned there's no turning back. Whoever crosses that horizon will be in the line of fire between the forces of good and the forces that dwell in the shadows. We're discussing the complete elimination of all worldly desires. If that were to happen, the new being with angelic faculties would find itself bound to divine orders. It could intervene in spiritual wars, protect secluded corners, and perhaps guide certain chosen ones. But there would be no personal life as we humans understand it. Everything would be at the service of God's plans. The mystery continues. Throughout history, each culture has tested its own version of the ultimate metamorphosis. For now, the compelling evidence remains hidden in ancient texts, apocryphal stories, and oral terms that have never been endorsed by the great dogmas. Is it a mystery that only a few understand, or is it something that, if known, would break the balance that defines the human? No one can say for sure that one day the next Enoch won't appear among us, with worn clothes and a gaze from another world. Could you recognize it if an angel crosses in front of you? Perhaps in his silence he carries the echo of a sacrifice that elevated him and his presence indifferent to earthly noise. Do you have any clues about something that men usually don't touch? If you've made it this far, it's because your heart, your soul, your spirit, or something heavenly is calling you. Wouldn't you be ready to lose yourself and become an everlasting messenger? Only time and your will can give you the answer. I am the documentalist, and this was Becoming an Angel. Special greetings to all channel members. Carlos Montes Bewan, Juan Jacobo, Lauis Galvan, Jonathan Pacheco, José Balsino, Miriam Romero, Jimena Tamara Nazu, Jesus Mora, Alvaro Medina. Thanks Keimer Chávez, Rosalinda Velázquez, Juan Ramón Ignacio, Dani Gaviria, Julio Vidal, Radiestesista. Subscribe to the channel. Carmen Virgen, El Chuta Energy Detective Pierre Ivan Rame from Real Carlos. And until next time.